Hi everyone, welcome to another podcast from Mentalni Trening or Mental Training. Today we have with us Peter Schneider. He's our colleague, sports psychologist, originally from USA, but currently living in Germany. So hello Pete, thank you for coming to the podcast or coming online. Firstly, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, Bogi Gipa. I am Peter. I was born in Detroit, raised until I was about 21, 22. I'm currently 35, so you do the math. I've been in Europe for over 10 years. I had a small stint in Finland for my master's in sports psychology, and then headed down to Leipzig and was in Leipzig and Jena, working and studying both with my PhD and then my applied work at a soccer club, and then have moved down recently to Augsburg in Bavaria and working at the academy since about 1.5 years to be exact. So that's the short version.
Yeah. Okay, now we're gonna start with the longer version. Okay, first things first. How did you know that you wanted to be a psychologist and then afterwards actually a sport psychologist? How was your beginning?
Yeah. I mean, I assume most people kind of evolve into the position. I think for me it was no different. I had a great desire to actually go into the medical field. And then I just kind of got really bored with, it maybe sounds bad, but I got bored with certain things, with even anatomy and physiology. I found fascinating how the body worked, but really I just noticed that I was more and more focused on the mind. And specifically, I really liked the interactions between two minds. I thought that was just fascinating to me. So in my undergrad, I kind of then was pushing more and more towards the psychology degree. I have to admit, although in the States you have like this, what's your major and your minor is what you study at least, and I really believed biology. I have to do it because it's the most difficult, and if I do psychology, that's a so-called soft science, social science, and I had to prove to myself that that's the most important, that I get this hard science degree. I'll be more respected. I mean, looking back, it's complete nonsense, but at that moment, it was very, very much an ego thing. And again, maybe kind of relates to why I was so interested in psychology and why I was like, why are you, there's these memes that this guy who looks in a mirror and he's just like, why are you like this? That was definitely me in college. I was very much trying to ask myself, like, why is this important? Who am I proving this to? And so, that was kind of how I started getting towards psychology, but then I kind of did a abridged version. So I started a master's in Germany in neurology. So I thought, okay, I can kind of bridge the gap. I was really into neurology in my undergrad, my bachelor studies. And so I thought, all right, why not? And I just realized I hated it. I couldn't like it at all. It was just too abstract, even though it is clearly you're dealing with human and hormones and very direct interactions. It was just still, I didn't have a human being in front of me, and it really kind of upset me. So I went ahead, and at that point I did a little bit of soul searching, and I knew I was like, okay, I definitely want to go into psychology. Do I want to become a psychotherapist? Do I want to, be clinical? Do I want to be, some other type of psychologist? And one thing I always like to joke about is there's always men probably won't admit it, but often there's a woman in the game. There's somehow a woman that's pushing you in one way or the other. And so the reason I first came to Germany was because I met a girl who spoke fluent German in college, and I was just fascinated by it. The reason I went to Finland to do my master's was I met a girl from Finland that I thought she was really cool. And these aren't necessarily romantic interests, but it just happened to be a female that I was good friends with, that I went to go visit in Finland. And once I was there, I studied sports psychology because I looked at the different programs in psychology, and I thought it was just fascinating. I was a former athlete. It kind of was something that I always asked myself about why I really got along with one coach, but not at all with another. I was always a very positive person. I needed a positive climate, I thought. And in college, I really had struggled in that transition to a men's team. And so that's kind of where these puzzle pieces kind of get together, and I end up studying sports psychology at the University of Jyväskylä in Finland. And just a side note on that, I remember arriving there the first day after I had been once to visit it, and then I arrived there in, I think, September is when we started. It was and it was cold. I mean, it's Finland, I knew it. And I am from Michigan, which can be a cold, wintry place. But it was cold. It was dark. It was real dark already. And the first night I got there so late I couldn't go shopping. So I got there and I literally had nothing. I literally slept like I had one hoodie I put as a pillow, and then I covered myself in a few others. And I remember thinking, oh man, sports psychology better be worth it. So that was really my start into my very first sports psychology. Like I had one class in undergrad, but that was the first thing. And that's kind of where, I started studying my master's, and specifically as, I realized this is really cool. This is really what I want to do. And I guess that's kind of, I would say, how I got to be the interest in sports psychology. And then I kind of followed the breadcrumbs. I ended up, as I said, moving to Leipzig and completing a second degree in sports science and diagnostics. And then a doctorate on top for the reason of basically just, it was a steady job, and it was a cool idea to kind of get to both sides of it. So that would be kind of the longer version of how I at least got to, I have a degree in sports psychology, and I'm starting to work with, originally handball teams, actually was the first teams I really did a lot of work with in Leipzig.
Okay, and how was it to move from the United States to Europe?
So I had come, I come for a few months before on study abroad, and I remember thinking, I remember sitting in this, and I know the Europeans will chuckle at this, but I remember sitting at the, it was like the study abroad center at college, and they gave you a list of things that you should be aware of in going abroad, what you should expect, what you can expect. And, no one in my family had ever been to Europe, at least my ancestors, but no one in my immediate family had been to Europe. And so I didn't know exactly what to expect. And sure enough, you look at this list and it's like, okay, your bed sheets, and, if you have a specific toothpaste, they might not have it over there. Like there's just like silly things like that. But then one of the things that was written on there, I remember it said condoms. And I was like, I remember raising my hand and I was like, is it serious about this? And like, well, you don't know if you can trust the brands and, things like that when you go overseas. And, whether you're sexually active or not, I remember thinking at the time, I was like, do they not have proper condoms in Europe? Like that was a big thing as an American. And Americans have a view of Europe anyway that's kind of, specifically for us, like the French or the Italians, they're very promiscuous and all that. And
so you brought your pack just in
case. No, I don't, man. I was for me, I guess thankfully I didn't need to worry about it. I was in a relationship, and I was quite loyal in that sense. So that wasn't an issue for me, but it was definitely just this mindset of okay, this place is, Germany's gonna be a lot weirder than I thought. Like it's gonna be a lot different. And so that's just kind of a funny way of describing how you go into a situation thinking, oh, that, people don't grow up, live there, and they don't have normal lives like we do in Detroit, Michigan, which now that I've left Detroit, Michigan, anyone who's grown up there as well, it's not the most normal place. So that's, there are definitely a few other factors. That's probably one of the story I like to share, just because I think it really displays, like I said, the presumptions you have going abroad. And really, when I got to Germany specifically, though, for the first three months I was there, I absolutely loved it. I loved the lifestyle. And obviously, study abroad is not real life, let's be honest, but it does give you, if you really jump into the culture and just kind of allow yourself to be, enveloped by the people, and you start just making new experiences, and I kind of felt like, oh, this is definitely something I've been missing. This is something that's more over. I would like to try to make this more permanent. And so that's actually kind of why I ended up then searching to go back after my bachelor's.
Yeah, I think not a lot of, okay, I wouldn't say Europeans, but I think, yeah, also some other parts of Europe wouldn't agree with you with the love of Germany, because
Yeah,
most
fair
of the
enough.
Europeans are like, oh my God, no, Germans, they're like cold, they don't communicate, they don't hang out with each other. And yeah, I know people from Croatia, when they move to Germany, it's really, really bad. Okay, we have a new guest in the podcast.
Ah, what's up?
Okay, hi Rio. Okay, you need to go. Yeah, so I mean, I know you're also you know a lot about other cultures in Europe. You also know Croatian, also because of a girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, what would you say? I mean, what was it in Germany, in German culture, that really got you moving?
Probably a lot of influence from my father, and he's just a very orderly, the name Schneider is a kind of a giveaway, comes from him. So I think he had always really preached that in the house that we grew up. He liked order, and he kind of just liked, he kind of just liked simplicity. And, I love my father very much. I think though that it's maybe a typical German thing that you show love, you don't necessarily say a lot of love. It's just kind of a different way of them doing it. And they also show love maybe in a different way than other cultures do. But somehow it kind of clicked with me. Somehow it kind of just made sense. So I think with the Germans, I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, but compare Germans to, I mean, Finns are also, they're another level. Like Finns go they even have more distance, except when they've had a couple drinks, and they get quite friendly. But it's, yeah, obviously it's very, very different than Croatia, or if you go further down the rabbit hole to Bosnia or so, where I've spent some time. Those are just fascinating different cultures, and the way that they kind of accept and, for example, show their love and show the way that they appreciate that you're there. And so that's something that I guess I found a home in Germany, where I have a balance, where I kind of understand not just the language, but kind of the language of love and the way that people show appreciation. And I guess I probably a lot doing to my own upbringing appreciate that, and really appreciate it, understand it, and can flourish in it. I think I've been really, really happy here.
Okay. Okay. Well, we like that you also love visiting Croatia and our countries.
Full of life. Full of life.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, but let's talk a bit more about your career. When you started working with athletes, do you remember your first athlete and how it was, like the first meeting you had?
You mean like still as a student, or do you mean like after, let's say, I actually at least graduated?
Well, it can be also as a student, if you like properly worked with him or her.
With him or her, yeah. I mean, back in Finland, I guess I wouldn't. I would like to count it, but I feel like there was such language barriers, and it was so difficult to establish a real, type of connection. I probably wouldn't count that really as a really true first interaction. I mean, I definitely got the mechanics down. Let's say that. Like, it was a lot of, these are the things you should ask, and these are, and it really was this kind of checklist. And also, to be honest, as I said, with language barriers, trying to formulate questions in a way that they were simplified and understandable, and not for lack of their understanding, but moreover maybe just to kind of keep a decent rapport between us. I would say then if I move down to Leipzig and I look at when I'm working with specifically one handball player, I started working with very intensely, and that was what I would say is it was more than just people who were asking for tips. So one thing I joke about is my father likes to call me up and ask me. He likes to golf. Ask me a question or two about how he can maybe be a better golfer, or his friend could be a better golfer, or my brother. There's just like little tiny things, but that doesn't count really. This was more, okay, someone came to me, they really wanted to work on their mental game, and I went ahead and just started checking the boxes of all the classical psychological skills training that I could think of. I said, okay, let's look at your imagery ability. How do you image? How do you image? Why do you image? When do you image? How strong is your imagery? That was like a big topic for me, because I was like, I know that. I'm comfortable with that. Then I went and talked about self-talk. Oh, what kind of self-talk do you have? When does it happen? Is it positive, negative? And so I really, you can go further down to different emotional regulation things, relaxation techniques and whatnot. And I felt that was very successful. And I felt like that was, every time I'd meet with him, I felt like I was kind of going a step further. And I even went so far as, because of the success I had with this first athlete, I remember attributing or feeling like he was playing well, and therefore a lot of his success was due to me working with him. But I think it's not really, it really took, I think it was just really exciting at the time to have somebody to be giving them information, to feel like you have a value to this person, and then to see them do well. You just want to attribute their success to yours. I'm assuming for you it's similar, where you see something successful and you just really want to say, look what at least I helped do.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the biggest issue with our work, because it's not like, I don't know, you can measure it, like you can take a stopwatch and measure if they're running faster. It's really not objective, and I think that also a lot of the times you want to say, okay, I helped with that, it's because of me. But I think that also sometimes there's like a complete opposite, where I question myself, like, did anything I worked with him or her actually stick? Did they use it? Did it help them? Because I think that also a lot of the times athletes just like to confirm that, oh, it's good, I'm doing it, yeah, it's helping. And there's this fine line, like, okay, is it really helping? Are they honest, or are they just saying what they think that I want to hear?
Right. Yeah, and this is where I feel it comes to, I started getting into this idea that I want them to rate their knowledge in certain aspects of sports psychology. And so I started setting up a system where they would say, okay, I know, this is how good I would say I'm at imagery. This is how good I am at self-talk. I know what, this are. I know what my goals are. I know how to relax myself. I all these things. And yet what I ended up felt like I was doing, though, at the end of the day, and why I've, definitely changed paths since then. And that's okay. I'm not angry at myself for doing this. But back then, I remember starting to think, I feel like I'm training another sports psychologist. Like, I feel like I'm just teaching them teaching them now that they know this stuff, but that doesn't mean they can do it.
Yeah.
And so that's something I think that I really take from not only my first athlete, because I did work with him for some time. You could ask him almost anything, and I always joke like he could have an honorary bachelor's in sports psychology, because he knew so many things. But and he said it does help, but I always felt, as you said, I felt just like it wasn't like we had this very close connection, as so much as it was just, here, do this, do that, okay, that, check.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if you get an athlete with an actual problem, with something that you actually see, and then after some time you see that that's gone, then you can be like, oh, good job, you really helped him or her, and it's really getting better.
Mm.
And but sometimes athletes come with like, okay, I just want to learn something new, I just want to see if there's some things that can help me be even better. I mean, everything is okay. I'm good, and I mean, I don't know what to say. Which athletes do I prefer? Because the ones with problems, they are really motivated to solve them, and the ones that just want to learn something new, I think they're more open to everything.
Mm. Mm. It's true. I feel that, and you know, to kind of to round out this discussion, I feel there's this movement in general that happened with me, and it's happened with quite a few people that I know, colleagues that I know, is to really get away from trying to just educate my players and really focusing more on building connections with them, listening to them, and just really giving them more of really pushing towards this acceptance model, really just pushing towards this. There are things about your mental, you know, the way that you think, your mental game, your anxiety, whatever. These are things that I know you come to me because you want to change, or you want me to tell you how to change them. I'm not necessarily convinced you can change them always. And so instead of changing them, I think maybe a much more clever option is to learn to accept them and learn really just to perform with them. And so that's definitely something I really kind of developed towards, this acceptance model and acceptance and commitment model. And more recently, even more than that, I noticed that there is, you know, there was always this tension in my head of, well, you can't do both. And that's kind of then gotten thrown out the window. I think it has come to a point that it's certain people just need a phrase. They need to be taught that a certain self-talk phrase when you're struggling can pull you out of a rut and can really help. That's not necessarily maybe an acceptance and commitment model, but it's enough. It works and it's effective, and you know, we have very successful athletes. And then I have others that you know, they really don't need advice. They don't need input. They just need to talk, and that's I guess that's really, of course, the trick. That's the thing that just comes with experience, is recognizing, of course, who's that one that needs the advice and who needs you just to shut up and listen.
Yeah, I agree. I think that okay, it depends on the athletes, but also I think everyone needs both, but maybe not in the same measure. So
Right.
we just need to recognize, okay, maybe today's meeting I wanted to talk about, I don't know, positive self-talk, but the athlete comes with some I don't know, other thing, something happened at the last match or something like that, and then we spend the whole meeting just talking about that. And I think sometimes that's also okay, and it's really important from us to be flexible, to not be like, okay, no, yeah, but I wanted to do this today and I don't want to talk about it. No, we need to listen to our athletes and just see what they need in the moment.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, and now talking about athletes, did you work with like a wide variety of different sports?
I worked with, so at the beginning, then team handball was definitely the one I got into the most in the Leipzig area. Worked with two different teams, and it really, the one started simply because I was at a birthday party, and I was playing for a soccer team in Leipzig just for fun. And the brother-in-law of my teammate who invited me, he was the coach of a fifth league handball teams, like a regional league handball team. And I just said, okay. I was like, I don't know anything about this sport. And we just started talking. Sure enough, he was like, I've always been fascinated by it. If you really want to get some experience, come on by. So I was like, okay. So I just came by and started working, and I didn't even understand. Like, I started working handball. I didn't even know. I thought it was such a goofy sport, first of all. I'd seen it on TV. And I know if the Croatian viewership is watching, I remember just thinking this was the goofiest, funniest, and easiest. This is clearly for all the people who can't play soccer and cannot play basketball. They're just running around the court and throwing a ball into a goal. I can't imagine something easier. And specifically, like penalty shots, I was like, there's nothing easier than this. It's literally a goalie dancing around. You just have to throw the ball in the corner. Like, I can't imagine something easier. And so sure enough, like, I showed up though, and I was just dumbfounded at how difficult this game is and how difficult it, sure enough, I will absolutely take every single minute and second of critique, and you're a dumb, ignorant American. I don't mind. I deserve it because, oh my goodness, what, how difficult the sport was, how physical the sport was. And then, the details of the sport and movements and then I remember trying to shoot a penalty shot a few times, and they were definitely not 100% against the decent goalkeeper. They're not 100%. So very, very fascinating experience for me. I really, really appreciate the coach. He really took me under the arm, the assistant coach, and the guys were just really nice to me. And they're in general, they're a different breed than your typical soccer player, for example, in Europe or something. So they were really, like I said, they were really, really good to me, and they taught me a lot about not just handball culture, but sport culture in Germany and Europe. And so that really helped me. They really helped me with my next station, because I was really working with them, and then I kind of got an offer. It's a long story with Red Bull Leipzig that ended up not working out, but I ended up working for Carlos Siena, and a lot of the experience that I got from those handball teams really then carried over to working with the teams in Jena, and just building a relationship with coaches, and specifically one coaching staff was the under-19s. Well, then they were promoted to the professionals, and I ended up getting to go up with them. So this all kind of goes back though to, I worked with a variety of athletes, and really just I think my openness to just be a beginner. I think if I had gone into soccer right away, which is the sport that I grew up in, I think it might not have been as helpful for me. I think handball let me kind of completely put on my beginner's cap and just accept everything that was going on around me and just learn, to shut up and learn. And so that, alongside the fact that my language skills were good in German, but not perfect, and specifically East German, Saxonian German, can be really tough. So you're not understanding a lot, or I wasn't. So I was listening just as much as possible. And all these kind of factors really helped me in my applied work to kind of take the next steps.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I can say now I'm working with, I've worked with, I think, more than 20 different sports until now, and yeah, to be honest, my dream is one day to work in a football club and try that part, but I think that all the experience that I'm getting now, and everything that every athlete is so different, and the sports are so different, and also the thing that you said about handball, how you thought, oh, it's so easy and everything, like the same prejudice I had before I started working in esports. Like, oh my God, they're just sitting down and playing games all day. I mean, how hard can it be? And then when you see how the professionals work and how their day looks like, it's like, oh my God, I'll never again say that esports isn't sport, because I think that at the end of the day, they work more than probably any other sport that I work with.
Right. And they do love their work. So, it is work, but they absolutely and the esport guys are just crazy. As you know, I did
Yeah.
I did a Dota tournament as well, and it was just it's a different level. It's a completely different level and a different way of competing. And it absolutely, though, the respect, I can only really strengthen your argument on the respect that I have for people who are involved in esport and the amount of time and effort, concentration and whatnot that they actually pour into it. It's quite astounding.
Yeah, and I mean what's more fascinating is that most of them are really young. I mean, they become like high level with 17, 18 years old, and I don't know, if you play after 25, you're already like, okay, you can start thinking about retiring.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's like figure skating.
or rhythmic gymnastics.
Yeah, for example, right.
That's the worst. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, can you tell us now a bit more about your work in a football club? How does that look like?
I think, it looks a lot just like anyone who's ever been to an academy. I guess that's one thing. It depends on if you've ever, seen what academies are. It's really just a different type of coach within the whole network. Specifically, the way that I work is, just to be seen as you have your normal coaches, the normal staff that train the sport itself. Then you have individual coaches, you have physios, you have athletic coaches. You have all these people kind of around the pedagogy that focus on schools and whatnot. So you have all these people that just have their roles within the academy. I think the mental coach of, some people call a mental coach, some say sports psych. I don't really personally have much of an opinion, as long as the person is qualified, as long as the person does their job effectively. And so I kind of see myself like that within the academy. I have that role, and every part is there to communicate with every part. So if it's an injury, the physio can come to me. If it's in the rehabilitation process, a athletic coach can come to me. If it's literally a concentration problem in practice, the coach can come to me. If it's a school problem, pedagogy can come to me. There's really, lots of different areas where that I kind of am having influence in working. And so, a classic question is, what's the daily life look like? I mean, it really depends. It's such a crazy depends question, because I'll get in, I have my coffee, and the first thing that I do is I just go through the entire academy. Corona, it's a little bit different, but normally I would literally just make my coffee and walk from one end of the academy to the other in the morning and say hello to every person who's there. And maybe take at least 2 minutes, if not 3 or 4, and just ask how the person's doing. And usually you end up with one person a little bit longer than the other, and you kind of just have them in an informal conversation, see how things are going. And specifically on like a Monday or Tuesday, that's fantastic, because you might get some information about, oh, we have this coming up this week, or this player is, currently worried about him, or he's doing really well now. And you get out of those Jew fixes where you're just kind of working in when you're just kind of working in a formal environment, right? And so that, I think, really helps just getting all these little pieces of information. And then I get back to my office and kind of plan my day. So I go ahead and see how my days, let's see what appointments I have for that day, if there's anything I need to change, which players I'm meeting with coaches I'm meeting with, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And what would you say, who do you work with the most?
Honestly, it's a pretty good tie between individual players and coaches, I would say. So I think there are individual players that either are, let's say, sent to me or recommended to me by coaches. But at the same time, you have just limited time with the players, because you really have to imagine they're academy kids. So most of them, except for the under 23s and maybe the under 19s, they're in school. And so you can't really meet with them except for maybe before and after practice. And you have one psychologist for 10 teams, so you're really running into time constraints really quickly. And then you have coaches who you can see then throughout the day pretty much at any time. And so this kind of has helped and allows me to really spend much more time with the coaches one-on-one, and really also focus on kind of teaching through them. So let's say my biggest thing is really an environmentally focused point of view. I really want environments, climates that help our young kids become better professional athletes. And there's no one better than that to do that than the coaches at the academy.
Okay, so if you needed to like choose to spend your time more with the coaches or with the athletes, would you then choose to spend more time with the coaches? Or
yes, if I had to choose, if you literally said you can only work with coaches or athletes, I would say coaches, definitely, because you have a much bigger impact. You're creating. The thing is, coaches and people like to believe that they're the reason somebody changes, and that's really very unlikely. There might be certain things that you say to somebody that gets them to think and kind of make a couple of different little self-reflection. The great majority of changes are going to happen due to the environment. And so if you can work with a coach to kind of help him create the environment that is most what's the word I'm looking for? Most helpful to the development of their players, then you're going to be most successful in doing what you want to do. I think we get caught up as sports psychs in, I work with this player, kind of what I was talking about at the beginning. I'm working with him, therefore he's changing his behavior. This does happen, no doubt, and this is the basis of therapy. I mean, it's not like it's clearly very possible. However, I think more effective long-term and effective change happens when the great environment of the club and the smaller, let's say, micro environments of the coaching staffs and their players, when they work together really well, you end up actually getting the best, by far the best product.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I also think that the coaches are the most important part. And I mean, well, definitely if a sports psych works in a club, I think his main task is to be, let's say, the coach's maybe not right hand, but at least left hand. So we are there to help the coaches. But I also must say that it also depends on the coach. I don't know if you ever had a coach who wasn't so eager to work with sports psych, or just like no, I don't want to work with him, and that's it.
Yeah, I've had coaches who aren't too, let's say, excited about sports psychology, and I've had coaches that are excited about sports psychology but not with me. So you gotta take it both ways, and just kind of accept that. That's also very legitimate. I mean, Peter Schneider is not the be all end all of sports psychology by no means. I'm confident in what I can do and what I know, and this is something I think for a lot of sports psychs that feel rejected by certain coaches or even athletes. They I have knowledge and I can help you. Maybe, possibly, and if you can't, it's also okay. It's not. It's if you're going to preach acceptance, if you're going to preach, this kind of idea that we need to help people understand our profession. Yeah, sometimes you need to be a little harsh and maybe speak up and whatnot. At the same time, you can do this without saying, okay, I'm less valuable simply because Coach X doesn't want to work with me, or athlete Y or Z or whatever. That's a difficult lesson, and I think it really just takes time, and maybe to get fired or maybe something like that, and it hurts, and afterwards it's a great experience.
Yeah, and I don't know if you ever had that kind of a situation, but I'm also wondering if sometimes, I don't know, the coach tells you, okay, there's a player who really has a lot of problems and I really need you to work with him, and the player is like, no chance, I don't want to go there, that's bullshit, I don't want to work with him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Most of the players though that I've had, they don't say that's bullshit or something. They're more over just like, no, I just don't want to. I'm not really interested in it.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
that's,
I know that sometimes they are also like, no, I don't believe in that. I don't think that can help me in any way.
oh yeah. Yeah, I think for me, so again, I think it's even often, it's more attributed to the person rather than um, to the science or to the to sports psychology in general. I do feel that there are people that are in the club that who know me and just feel like, no, I don't really know if I have such a connection to Pete, and I don't really know. And that's a very legitimate thing to say, whether that's a coach or an athlete. And again, it's a hard lesson to learn that there are some people that might even say like, oh yeah, I like sports psychology, I just don't like you. But that's it, and that's okay. That's kind of part of the job. You got to kind of deal with that. If you can't, especially if you can't stay true to what you believe in, the way that you want to do things, and come with confidence every day, especially in professional soccer, you're gonna have a hard time. You're gonna have a hard time in other places, and so. It's a difficult environment, professional soccer. It's a very, very difficult environment. I know plenty of very good psychologists who are unlikely to be successful in a professional soccer environment, simply because, something that sounds harsh, but simply because they have certain values that they don't agree with the way that coaches maybe speak to players, or the way that the environment almost treats players like a commodity. It's kind of part of the deal, and if you can't accept that, then it's not for you. And it's not that the whole world of professional soccer has to change so that you can work in that environment. It kind of needs to go the other way. That said, one of my biggest goals, and one of the things that I love about our position, is I like to be a person who is striving for change within the environment. So I think that's something that we forget. We forget that once we are in that environment, we have a responsibility to also try to move that environment or progress that environment in certain ways that maybe are more healthy and more tuned, let's say, to the society, and the way society views humans and development, all these things. You're not going to change everything. That you can, of course, you can try, you can work towards things.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
And I assume Croatia, I mean, you look at Croatia, you look at Germany, that's also completely different mindsets.
Yeah.
Yet Croatia was in the finals of the World Cup, 2000, when was that? 2016?
No, 18.
No, what did we say? It would have been 18, sorry, 2018.
18. Yeah, and that's also okay. Croatia, I think if we start that topic, Croatia and sports, we could talk hours about it.
Invite me on the next one. We can do it with Luka in Croatian. I'll have a ball. I'll work on my Croatian a little bit, and then
we're gonna try to find the mystery in Croatian sports. What do the Croatians have to be so successful in like every sport they play?
That's right.
Even like skiing, we actually have like one ski slope in the whole country. Yeah, that would be an interesting topic. But also, what I wanted to ask you, all these things that you were talking about, also about yourself and your development and acceptance and everything. I mean, I assume that you also have this regular, let's say, calls like we have, and talk to other sports psychologists. And I mean, at the end of the day, we have NSP, our organization for European sports psychologists. And what would you say about NSP and about how it helped you professionally?
Well, NSP has been, specifically NSP, I didn't see coming. I started my bachelor's, my doctorates in Leipzig, and then kind of got mentioned to me that there's this network of young sports psychs specialists in Europe, blah, blah, blah. And it was there was a conference in Uvascal at the time, and where I studied my master's. And so it was kind of like, oh yeah, it would be really cool for you to go back. And I kind of stumbled upon it. And when I was there, it was just a fascinating group of young people. And I just didn't realize how cool it was to talk to people from all over the continent, and then honestly beyond, as myself from the States and from Brazil or Australia. It was just the network itself is just such a eclectic group of motivated and passionate young people about this field. It really is a joy to talk to them. And so as things progressed, I was president, now I'm club pass coordinator, and I do get to take part in the meetings and whatnot. And those people definitely, I will write them for sure every other week, or someone out of that group, just to talk to them and see what they think about a certain topic or certain player, or how this coach is behaving. I think NS really just offers you a lot of people that you can create a relationship really quickly with. And then that relationship kind of lasts throughout your young professional career, where you develop, with 4 or 5 people, a tight bond where when you need something, you can call them, they'll be there. So that's how I would say about NS. NS is very, very helpful for that. And in addition to NS, I definitely have 2 or 3, German friends, those who also specifically work in academies, that I call and I, chat with, just to see how they have dealt with certain situations, or if they have any advice towards that. So I've been very, very fortunate to know certain people and be in touch with them, specifically to develop also even ideas that we talked about with acceptance. One of my colleagues in Nuremberg, actually, it's technically a opponent, but she's very big into acceptance, and we've chatted about this quite a bit. I have one of the colleagues at Bayern Munich who's in our league, and obviously a big opponent. I have fascinating conversations with him, and we're talking about the way he works with his coaches. Probably one of my closest, if not the closest, sports psych is in Bremen, and he and I we'll chat once a month or so how things are going. Specifically, he works really, really well. He does fascinating things with transitions. And so I'll call him, and even though I see myself as like, that's actually my strength, he's a guy that I'll call for sure and be like, I have this person, or he'll call me and be like, I have this guy, or, these players, can you help? I think that's something that's very normal and needed. And I specifically think coaches actually do it amongst themselves as well. I mean, psychologists tend to be sometimes a little more, can I talk about it? But, you can share a lot of information without saying names or specifics, and actually just say like, hey, I'm doubting myself. Or I talk about myself and be like, I'm doubting myself in this certain situation, which I've done before. I think it's difficult in the professional soccer environment specifically to talk about doubt. Doubt is like this big no-no. And I have been basically on a mission since I don't know, 2 years or so, where I've really explored vulnerability and Brené Brown and really in NSP as well, talking about being vulnerable and talking about the things that we mess up, and that's okay, and be comfortable with it, and try to get your environment that you work in to also think like this. Do your best to talk about failure, doubt, vulnerability, mistakes, human, being a human being. And the more we do that, the more we're going to probably be successful. So, yeah, networks, talking to people, huge, very, 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 very important.
Yeah, so message to everyone who is not yet a member of NS, definitely become one.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, you'll meet great people like the two of us, and have a friendship which will last you a lifetime, and also someone to share ideas and everything. And I think that's the most positive group of people that I ever met. And I think the saddest part of this year was when they canceled the NS conference, which was supposed to be in Belgium with a lot of beer and chocolates and everything.
Yeah,
so,
that was killer. That was killer.
Yeah, they also said that they're not going to organize it next year because they don't know what's going to happen. So another sad information. But yeah, 2022, be prepared for a lot of crazy psychologists who are eager to network and to just like party and learn a lot of new things.
Yeah, I think you can definitely imagine there's gonna be a lot of pent up energy.
Yeah, I think 2022 will be like the conference will be full on the first day of registration.
yeah, I could definitely see that happening. I could definitely see that.
Yeah. Okay. So Pete, we talked about a lot of stuff. Do you have something important that you would like to add in the end?
Now it has to be, now it has to be important, right? So
it could be also a funny anecdote.
Another anecdote. I have plenty of those. I think I would just end specifically. I'm hoping that there are quite a few people in Croatia or in the Balkans listening. I think it's a really, really cool opportunity just to talk to you and to talk to Mentalni Trening. Because I've seen you, especially Luca, I've known for quite some time, and we've met now 4 years. Been a while.
It was, I think, like 2.5, 3 years when we started the conference in Zagreb.
In Zagreb, that's right. Yeah. And so I think that's something though that I met Andre, for example, from Belgrade, I believe, or is it Novi Sad?
Novi Sad.
Yeah, he'll be angry though about that, but. That was just a really pleasure, and that is definitely something that I have been hoping to see kind of grow since I was in Zagreb. We met quite a few young psychology students or people focused on sports psychology. By all means, stick to it. It's definitely a really cool thing. The irony is, it seems like the more people who get degrees or the more people who show interest in it, they're like, oh, there'll be less positions available. But what ends up happening is the more and more people kind of talking about it and bringing it up, it tends to just make more attention. It tends to then grow the field. So I think that would be my one piece of advice that I know people who are in the field maybe are struggling or saying, okay, there's not a lot of opportunity. Just keep talking about it, keep bringing it up. By all means, the people who do have a little bit of of stability, like you guys, definitely get in touch with you. And by all means, if somebody speaks German and would like to, I've mentioned this before, Sanja, I guess this is very important. We do look for interns at FC Augsburg. By all means, I'm always looking for kind of international people because I feel they bring a different mindset. As long as the German is at a decent level, we can take a look. So,
okay, we will talk about it off the record when Luca is not listening.
But your German is that would take a little more practice, I think. But,
I mean, actually, my German was brilliant when I was in high school, but yeah, it's a lot rusty now. So. Yeah, but yeah, thank you, Pete, once again for this podcast. It was really, really fun and informative. I hope a lot of new sports psychologists will listen to it, but also athletes that want to know a bit more how is it in Germany, and especially footballers. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for your time. And guys, see you all in our next podcast episode. Bye.